Hello, Jess here for Hero Arts. Last month I shared a blog post with several card examples using our liquid watercolors on Yupo paper to achieve a similar effect to alcohol inks on Yupo. I received several requests to share a video using this technique, so here I am with 3 different ways of applying liquid watercolors to Yupo paper. Let's get started. First, I gather my supplies. I work on a craft mat and layer a paper towel on top of that to catch any excess watercolor paint. I'm using Yupo paper, which is a synthetic plastic paper. The paint will eventually dry on top of the paper. It will not soak in like regular watercolor paper. Then I have my Hero Arts liquid watercolors in a variety of colors, white iridescent shimmer spray from Hero Arts, blending tools with felt pads, and synthetic brushes. For my first panel, I start by dropping dandelion, strawberry, deep ocean, mulled wine, and purple liquid watercolors onto my Yupo paper. I use a blending tool to drag the color across the paper. This creates a pale ombre wash, so I add more drops to get more color. I want that horizontal stripy look, so I drag my blending tool across the paper in horizontal stripes, but you could move your tool in a variety of directions for different patterns. For my next panel, I start by spritzing white iridescent shimmer spray across the panel. I use a flat paintbrush to spread the spray more evenly across the panel. As you can see, my paintbrush wasn't totally clean, but it didn't end up being a problem. However, in general, I recommend using a clean brush. Next, I added drops of pine and moss liquid watercolor randomly across the panel. This time I took a round blending tool and blotted the paint across the Yupo in random different patterns. The paint moved around to create a very textured background. For my last panel, I started by adding a few drops of dandelion liquid watercolor to the Yupo paper. Then I used an air puffer, commonly used to clean camera lenses, to move the paint around. Once it was mostly spread across the panel, I added a few drops of strawberry liquid watercolor below it. I repeated the process, blending the colors sparingly. Then I added a few drops of mulled wine liquid watercolor below the red and blended it into the strawberry watercolor carefully. I added a few more drops until it was seamlessly blended across the panel. I left blotches of color to create a more textured look. Then I set all 3 panels aside to dry overnight. The biggest difference I find between using alcohol inks and liquid watercolors is the drying time. Since there's no alcohol in the liquid watercolors, they take much longer to dry, and the panels containing shimmer sprays take the longest. The first panel was dry within an hour, but the others took the full 24 hours to dry, and I actually got a little annoyed with the yellow, red, and purple panel and blotted some of the excess with a paper towel about 12 hours into the drying time. As you can see, it didn't suffer at all. The watercolors are quite forgiving on Yupo. Once they were all totally dry, I die cut the paper layering desert cactus from the green panel. I ended up adding a little more pine and moss liquid watercolor to the cactus with a blending tool after it was die cut, just to get a little more dark green color across the cactus. I also die cut the desert sunset panel from black cardstock and trimmed the other 2 panels down to layer behind the black cardstock. On one black panel, I stamped the sentiment, "Sorry I was so prickly," from cactus animals and heat embossed it with gold embossing powder. I stamped the same sentiment on a scrap piece of black cardstock, heat embossed it with gold powder, and trimmed it down to an angled flag for the second card. I adhered the liquid watercolor panels behind the black cardstock and adhered those to a white card base. I added the cactus to the brighter panel and then adhered the sentiment above it with foam mounting tape. Finally, I finished the brighter card with a few ombre red sequins and the paler card with a few champagne sequins. I love the different looks you can achieve with liquid watercolors, from soft and smooth to bold and textured. I encourage you to give it a try, but remember, really let those panels dry. You can find more information on the products I used today at the Hero Arts blog, and there's a link in the YouTube description below. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have a fantastic day and happy crafting. Bye!